My partner now is my biggest trigger ever.
How a projector should be running their business is different to how a generator is running their business. One isn't better than the other.
I'm leading in my relationships and I'm never fulfilled because they're never enough.
I can't just let my man lead and kind of energetically fall into his arms. I'm not trusting him. I'm still controlling. I'm still in my head. That tells me that you are not in your feminine. You might look feminine. You might be ticking the boxes, but you're not.
What is this? Why am I so curious? This is uncomfortable and this is different. But there's something that is so calling.
What was the thing that you had to heal in order to feel safe to then drop that masculine armor and be in your feminine?
What's up, Savages, and welcome back to another episode on the Business Savage podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Britton, and I am here today in studio with a friend and a guest, Monica. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you.
I'm going to read your formal bio so that we do this justice because this deserves to be done justice. Monica is an industry-leading trauma healer, period expert, and embodiment coach. For the last 8 years, through somatic trauma healing and deep embodiment work, Monica has helped women overcome hyper-masculinity, amen, and reconnect with their feminine energy in a sustainable way, giving them everlasting expansion in all areas of their lives: business, love, family, health, and fertility. Monica has built a multi-million-dollar business that has changed thousands of lives, where people come to her for actionable, real advice without the fluff. Amen. Savage approach.
Yep.
Her unique, authentic approach to this work and an extensive library of testimonials have made her the go-to person when somebody has tried everything. She is now the published author of her long-awaited book, Becoming Her, we have on the table here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cassandra. I'm so excited. And we're both pregnant.
So happy to have you here. So fun fact. Do we show the bumps?
Yeah, like we both are very pregnant.
They're showing.
They're showing, yes.
Yay! That is super exciting. And when are you due?
We are due the end of June.
Okay, so that makes it
probably a Cancer. I mean,
I was gonna say
he's like on the cusp with his like due date, but we're not telling anybody that because like it doesn't actually mean anything. And so, you know, he'll probably come late. And so he's going to be a Cancer. His energy and his essence and like the change in what I crave, not like food wise, but like I need to be by the ocean. And my husband is like, who are you? Like, I am not an ocean person. I am like, get me in the mountains. Like, I want a pool, but like, I don't want the sand. I don't want the salt. Like, it's just messy and annoying. And like, I don't need the beach. Like, would never want a beach house kind of thing. And like, he has made me want to be in a bath all the time. I want to be by the ocean. I'm like, for our baby moon, I'm like, we have to be by the ocean. Like, it is like a visceral craving that I have. So I'm like, he's 100% in Cancer.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So that's been your craving.
Yeah. Like more, I would say in the last like second trimester and then like still up until now in terms of like just the craving of like what my body is wanting. It's like, it wants water. It wants nature. It like wants to be by the ocean, and never in my life have I been like, oh, I want to be by the ocean. Like, it's not a thing for me.
So I'm sensing that there's a lot of self-connection, obviously, as we're sharing this. And so for anyone who's tuning in and listening and is like, how does she know? How does she even know this? This is the work that she does. And this is what happens when you're very self-aware and very connected to yourself. So I'm super excited for you. Congratulations. I didn't even know she was pregnant when we had her on the show. So that's just a bonus and super, super exciting.
Have you noticed anything for yourself of just like changes in what you're like craving?
Yeah. So I think my biggest thing, and I love that we're talking about this with the whole theme of feminine energy. My biggest thing is just like this full feminine energy that's come out in me.
Yes.
And we'll talk about this, but I grew up a hockey player, son that my dad never had kind of thing, kind of energy. And so I was very in a hypermasculine energy. Like that was the story of Cassandra's life. And so many people know that side of me. This has allowed me to tap into this like beautiful, nurturing energy, this softness that I didn't know was there. Yeah. It's allowed my business to flourish in different ways. It's like this unbelievable gift that we get to do.
I know. It's pretty incredible. Like even just from a business standpoint, the way that it has forced me like in a healthy way into like a deeper surrender and like receptivity that I never would, because I already was like such a receptive and like, you know, would be able to easily tap into surrender as a woman. But now it's like a deeper level, like of the help that I want, the support that I want. And I know for a lot of women, that's not their story, as in like they really struggle to ask for help. They really struggle to ask for support. But I don't know about you, but even just like the desire I've had of like the village, like wanting to build that village that so many of us as women are actually really craving and we don't have anymore these days. And that expectation to just, we can just do it all and we can do it all ourselves. And also just even the play between, there is this beautiful part of pregnancy where when you honor it, you actually really want to like slow down, do less, go inwards, nurture. And then there's also this part that society is like, you can do anything pregnant, and like you can, like, we both are like, yeah, we're not incapable pregnant, right? Like I can still do everything that I could have done, not pregnant, but it's like, do I want to?
Right.
Like, or is this actually a beautiful moment of permission for me to be like, I actually want to do less, like in every area of my life. And that doesn't mean that I'm like not going to have a successful career. It's just honoring this season that I'm currently in.
Right. I love that you're talking about that. I love that you use the word permission. And something that I think is a really probably beautiful place to start is the fact that you and I have both built multiple $1 million businesses so that we are in a little bit of a better place and a position than maybe some who get themselves into our situation.
Yeah.
So I'm very comfortable and I'm very excited to be able to hit the pause button and to take a little bit of a break and to be a fully present mother.
Yeah.
And you've built that for yourself as well. So.
And it is really hard, especially in the US, because the system here, especially coming from Australia, like even with maternity leave, is just so different. And so I know that for a lot of women, it's so challenging because it's like you go through this whole initiation and then they're kind of in a sense forced to go back into the workplace if they don't, if they don't work for themselves and their husband can't be the sole income earner. And like, so there's no right or wrong with this conversation, but I do think that, and it kind of, lends itself to the book and everything we'll talk about, but it does lend itself to like, just because you feel like, well, I have to go back to work. It's like, do you have to go back to work? Or actually, does this give you the permission to have a deeper conversation with yourself and with your husband of like, we need to do things differently? Because if you would like to be able to take a year off and be a mom, in my opinion, you absolutely should be able to do that. And it is hard, obviously, in this country where it's like, that's not as easily supported, compared to like European countries in Australia. But I do believe that there is a way. It's just, as Tony Robbins says, right? Like, it's not about the lack of resources. It's about the lack of resourcefulness.
Right.
Like, are you thinking outside the box fully? And that's easy for us to say, obviously, but even still, yes, we own our own business, so we have more control over these things, but there's also a lot of responsibility with running your own business. It's just a different kind of fear, right? Like, yes, we can press the pause and go on that maternity leave, but also like, we run our businesses,
right?
And we are our businesses. So what does happen when we go on maternity leave? Like, that's just like a different fear that we have to face compared to if you work for somebody else.
Yeah. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's take a little bit of a step back because we're diving into juicy stuff. And I want to give a bit of context first. Yeah. You're from Australia. You have total Nicole Kidman vibes. I'm sure you've been told that 1,000 times.
I never have. So
come on.
Never.
You do.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I love that. Wow. What a compliment.
Huge compliment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm from Canada.
Okay.
So I think that's very interesting.
So we have similarities with like the Commonwealth.
Totally.
Tall poppy syndrome.
And then found ourselves in America, married to American men.
Yep,
so congratulations to us. And you're in Atlanta now.
Yes, we're in Atlanta.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But you met in Colorado.
We met in Colorado. We met on a ski lift, actually, in Beaver Creek, which is where I grew up skiing. So like very full circle, like serendipitous. But yeah, we met on a chairlift, started talking, and then we went skiing the next weekend together. He flew me to Atlanta, and then we got married. We got engaged 8 months later, married, and had a baby on our honeymoon, or like made a baby on our honeymoon. So just like
fresh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fresh. We've only been together 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when you know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And especially when you are so in alignment and you've done so much work on yourself, it's like you can trust that knowing because like I was the fullest version of me when I met him and he like loved it all. It wasn't like I was half of me or something like that. And it just like we were inseparable from like day dot.
I think this is a perfect place to start because I resonate so strongly with what you're saying. And anyone who watches my show knows this about me and my background. So I'd love your take on all of this. First of all, my partner's from Colorado.
So there's
that.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
Born and raised in Colorado. Okay. Our wedding technically will be in Colorado.
Beautiful.
When baby is born next summer.
Amazing.
But what I want to talk about, which I think is so important and relevant, is I come from a traditionally masculine energy. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. That's just my story.
Yeah.
Built a lot of businesses in the masculine energy. And it wasn't until I really understood what the feminine energy was. Yeah. And I realized I was actually 10,000 times more powerful in my feminine energy than in the masculine. But where I'm going with this is there was an insane amount of work that had to be done on myself to get to a place where I called in that partner.
Yeah.
And something that I've talked a lot about, and I know you're going to have an opinion on this, is, the masculine and the feminine energy, we say that it has to be in balance, not just within you as a sovereign being and him as a sovereign being, but together in your relationship. And what I was doing, and I was self-sabotaging so often in relationships, was I was coming in and I was like, I'm in my masculine. And so if I'm in my masculine, I'm making more money. I'm the control freak. I don't trust them to pick the restaurant. I don't trust them to drive my car because they're not going to do it as well as I can. The list goes on. You can imagine how that type of energy shows up in a relationship and what that does to a man who's trying to be in his masculine. And now he's all of a sudden feeling like he needs to take on this different role. And we're both competing to hold that space. And so there was a level of surrender that had to happen. I had to know that he had it, like he's got it. He's got us if I'm going to step down and surrender. And it's not a bad thing at all. It was beautiful because my feminine was able to come out when I felt safe.
Right. That's the key thing, the safety. So question for you, were you then dating like very passive men?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
And what, if you don't mind sharing, what was the thing that you had to like heal in order to feel safe to then drop that masculine armor and be in your feminine?
I love that you use the word armor. My audience knows, side story with breath work, and I was told that I was wearing armor and I didn't know that I was wearing armor, so I was very aware. I had cheated on almost every relationship I'd ever been in.
Wow.
Almost every single one, in some way, shape, or form. Like just emotional, right? Like you just weren't checked in. You were not all checked in. And yet I'm calling for and I'm claiming and I'm demanding all of these things, but I wasn't showing up and I wasn't doing that. And I was like a bulldozer in my relationships. So yes, very passive men. It was just an awareness for me. I dove off the deep end into personal development. A lot of plant medicine came in. God came into my life full force. And it was just an awareness of like, I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm burnt out in my businesses. I'm leading those from a masculine energy. I'm leading in my relationships and I'm never fulfilled because they're never enough.
Right.
You were all more than enough. Okay. It was me, not you. Truthfully. And it took a very deep amount of work and personal development to realize like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be the masculine energy. I don't want to have to be the provider. I want to tap into this feminine energy. I want to allow her to emerge. And like claiming that and understanding that and being whole in my own being, that I was able to then see a strong man in his masculine who also is so beautifully in touch with his feminine. It's beautiful. That made me feel like, what is this? Why am I so curious? This is uncomfortable and this is different. But there's something that is so calling towards this energy.
And that was my, like, part of my story. You know, I grew up always just thinking I need to be a good feminist woman, like be unemotional because that's then going to make me a cool girl. And one of the things that kind of got me into all of this, was one of my ex-boyfriends. He was super into like masculine feminine and he would like force me into my feminine in a healthy way. And it would create this duality in me where I like one part of me was like, fuck, this is so hot. Like I love this. But then another part of me that was like, this is so wrong. And I know a lot of women, that is part of their struggle. Right. It's one part of them like deeply wants to live this version of their life, but another part of them is like, no, that's wrong. That's not empowering. And like, we really have to redefine the fact that being in your feminine is not less than being in your masculine. Right. And it sounds like for you, it took you burning out basically to be like, I am exhausted. I want to get into my feminine. And my invitation for any of the listeners is don't wait until you're burnt out to then be like, okay, now I can get into my feminine, right? Decide that you want to get into your feminine because you want hotter sex, deeper polarity. You want to be able to feel more magnetic. You don't want to, be having all these hormonal issues that happen as a result of living so misaligned with your body.
Disconnected is what I like to call it. Yes, so disconnected.
Really disconnected.
Yeah. Let's talk about building business in the feminine energy.
Yeah.
Because I know that's a big thing that you do. And obviously that's a big part of your success and everything that you coach on and teach on. So, traditionally, I know that there's women listening to this even right now. They're probably rolling their eyes and being like, no, I need to do it. I can build the empire, the boss bitch era. Like we talked about that episode that I did, which was like straight from my heart.
Yeah.
Because I'm so sick of seeing it.
Yeah.
And, they have this very strong opinion on how their businesses should be built. Now knowing what I know, experience what I've experienced and built multiple 7-figure businesses, I know like without a shadow of a doubt, with every fiber of my being, that I am more powerful in my feminine, that the businesses are more powerful in my feminine energy. And so for any woman that needs to hear that, I know you're going to double click on that. What do you have to say to that woman?
So the first thing that I want to say is that a lot of women think that being in your feminine means like ticking this list that they've found on Pinterest or Instagram of like, okay, I have to wear the dresses, curl my hair, like be soft and flowy, bake muffins in the middle of the day. That does not make you feminine, right? Like, so if you were to really understand, and so then with the business stuff, just really quickly, don't think that it looks a certain way to run your business, quote unquote, in your feminine. What it looks like and what it feels like to actually be in your feminine is this feeling of an exhale in your body and like you're at home with yourself. It's alignment and whatever that looks like for you in your given season of life. And so, prior to falling pregnant, for example, it wasn't that like I was running my business in my masculine. It was just that I wanted to do a bit more and I was showing up a little bit differently. Whereas now, like, I'm like, I have never been like, oh, whatever, you guys can do it. Like, I've never done that so much with my team. So being in your feminine is not a particular list of things to do. It is an energy. That's the first thing I want to say, because that's really important even in business so that women aren't thinking, oh, I have to run my business a certain way and now I'm being in my feminine with my business, because if that way of running your business isn't in alignment, it's not going to work. And I say that because there are, like, even if we were to just use human design as an example, I'm sure your audience is familiar with human design, right? How a projector should be running their business is different to how a generator is running their business. One isn't better than the other, right? We're all in our feminine as women, for example, but we all have different human designs.
What's yours?
Mine's a generator. Okay. Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah. No surprise. But so why I say that is like, even just on that example, it's like, don't look at how I run my business and think, oh, that's being in your feminine, because also I've run this business successfully, making a profit for 8 years. You've run your business for a long time, making a profit. If you're starting your business, you doing it the way that we're doing it right now is not going to work.
Right.
And if it's not in alignment for you, if it's not lighting you up, it's not going to work. Another example that I'll give separate to business is sometimes the Virgos will come to me and go, but Monica, like, I love just like planning the holidays and having the itinerary and everything being highlighted and color coded, and it makes me really happy. So does that mean I'm in my masculine because I'm the one planning the holidays? And I'm like, if that is what truly lights you up, and that's not from a trauma response, it's not that you have to do that because you don't trust your man to do it or because you have to be in control, that truly lights you up, then to me, you're in your feminine because you're lit up and you're happy. It's this awareness of understanding, like, taking it deeper when it comes to like being in your feminine. Take it deeper than just that list or that outwards visual of am I in my feminine? Because the version of me that was a cold bitch, that was so unemotional, I looked feminine. I wore the frilly dresses. I had my hair curled. I dressed the same as like what I dressed now, but I was absolutely not feminine. So don't just think of it as a list, but instead think of it as something much deeper. Think of it as, do I want to release control? Do I feel enjoyment when I just get to like switch my brain off and be, a passenger princess, to put it simply? Or actually, is that really scary and that doesn't feel safe? And when I come home from work, I can't just let my man lead and kind of energetically fall into his arms. I'm not trusting him. I'm still controlling. I'm still in my head. That tells me that you are not in your feminine. You might look feminine. You might be ticking the boxes, but you're not. So it's understanding like not just the nuances, but actually let's take it deeper than just the simple, like kind of almost binary conversation that happens on Instagram a lot of the time with this feminine and masculine, because I think or actually I don't even think, I know from my clients that is adding to women's feeling of I'm not doing enough, being enough, good enough as a woman.
Yeah. What is your opinion on the whole boss bitch rhetoric, the boss bitch era, so to speak?
So let me just say this as like one part of it that I know that you would have seen on Instagram. You know that trend where it was like, I'm retiring my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, a way to retire your sex life too.
Right.
Just to put it very simply. The girl boss era, the boss bitch era, whatever you want to call it, my take on it is feminism took us out of the housewife box and it's just put us into the girl boss box. And it's making women still not be happy. They're thinking, okay, well, now I'm like wearing the power suit and I'm achieving all of this, so I should now be happy because I'm a boss bitch. But then they come home to an empty house. They're struggling in their dating life. They are not able to surrender and get out of their head in sex. They have all these hormonal issues. And I'm like, yeah, how's that going for you? We need to redefine what it looks like and feels like to be a successful woman and not redefine it as a society. We need to redefine it for ourselves because that's going to change in every area of life. In every season of life. I mean, the season that we're going through, what it looks like to be a successful woman, it is different and it feels different to what it looked like for us a year ago. And it's going to feel different again in a year's time. One is not better than the other. The girl boss bitch era, it is emasculating for a lot of men because we get this, for the majority of women that are embodied in that energy, they get this hyper independence, they get this badge of honor, and they wear it in this kind of way of I am better than a man.
Yeah.
And that then comes off with their bitterness and their anger and their resentment towards men. Of course, like no man is ever enough. No man is then rising enough to the occasion. And I see it so much, in just my community or clients that will come to me where they will basically share like, literally no man is enough. And I'll say like, okay, what are you looking for in a man? And they are looking for perfection. Their expectation is so unbelievably high. I'm like, no man can achieve this.
But right? Not only that, but she also isn't.
Right. Well, of course, it's coming from this place of like, I'm such an amazing woman. I'm so empowered. Like I am doing all these amazing things. So therefore he has to as well. It's coming from this righteous, entitled, truly very egocentric energy. And very often how I like see it come across is from the women that have done a lot of personal development work. And I like to say there's a line with personal development. And when you also, when you cross that line and you no longer have space for humanness and you think that you are enlightened, I'm like, you are the least enlightened person. If you cannot understand and embody the energy of imperfection, and the fact that your partner is also going to be imperfect, you are setting yourself up for misery. It doesn't mean don't have standards. It doesn't mean tolerate shitty behavior. It means that list that you have, what is actually not fucking important on that list? What is actually important and what's not? And there are some things that to somebody else not important, but to you, you actually need to acknowledge they're really important. The example I always give is that I had to get real with myself before I met my husband because I was like, you know what? I'm actually lying to myself thinking that I'm okay even entertaining a guy that doesn't know how to ski. I'm a really good skier. I've skied my whole life. I'm sorry, but I was like, I can't be with a man that can't go down double black better than I can. And I had to that's one example where on that list, that was actually really important to me. So acknowledging like there are those little random things where that actually might not be you being entitled because you have to think about in 10 years' time, am I going to be happy with this person or am I going to resent them because I told myself, oh, well, I have to be happy even if he doesn't have X, Y, and Z. And now you're angry that he's a worse skier than you.
Right.
So, there's nuances with the list, but I see so many quote unquote empowered women that have these insane expectations for a man. And it also doesn't hold space for the fact that men are so different to us. I'm like, go date a woman.
Yeah.
Right? If you want this person that's like the perfect communicator and always makes you feel seen and understood, I'm like, you aren't always going to be understood by him.
Right.
because he literally can't understand you. Just like
He's a
there's
man.
plenty of times where, your man is saying something and you're like, I literally do not understand why you think this.
Right. But that's okay.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes my husband and I will just be like, oh, it's a man versus woman thing. Like, we're just never going to come to a resolution about this because we can't understand each other. And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's something really relieving about that.
Yeah. I think like to take a half a step back, and then I would love to lean into what you just ended with. What my understanding of it, because I used to be that woman, I used to be the boss bitch era, and that's what that episode was all about, is like, I can so strongly stand and lead this episode because that was me.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I know why you're here. And I empathize with why you're here. And I know how it happened. And I know how you're scared. I get it. But also, here's the other side and what it's like to be on the other side. And so like the real truth and the real depth of what I personally believe is happening is just a lack of safety that they are feeling. And so this hyper masculine comes out to overprotect.
Yes.
And there's a million ways that we could dive deep into where that comes from and those stories and rewriting all them. And I know this is probably the work that you do.
Yeah.
And I'm probably assuming is all of this beautiful book. But it really came down to, I didn't feel like safe and I didn't want to give my financial situation to anybody else or give that to their control or my love to anybody else. It was like, no, I don't trust anybody else because I don't feel safe. And so I have to take this all on myself. Can you imagine how exhausting that feels?
I know how exhausting it is.
Right.
I also used to be that woman.
And then it leads you to burnout.
Yes.
It leads you to anxiety. It leads you to depression.
It leads you to the constant dissatisfaction with men.
Right.
The anger with men, the resentment with men, and then of course no man is enough. Of course your dating experience is terrible.
Right.
But yeah, on that note, a really big part of the work that I do with women, it's not just being like, oh, this is feminine, this is masculine, because that's not going to give you sustainable results. It's actually, what trauma do you have around the feminine and the masculine, men and women, and just like life and society and whatever, that has made you feel unsafe to be in your feminine? Because here's the thing, like, there's also discernment at play, and you're well within your right to not feel trusting to hand your finances over to somebody. But is that from this grounded, I actually don't trust them yet? Or is it from this like more trauma response of, I can't trust anybody, so I don't trust him to deal with my finances, right? There's a difference. And that also comes from your intuition.
Right.
But you can't feel your intuition when you have so much trauma that has just made you so disconnected from your body.
Yeah.
The trauma is a really big part of the feminine, the ability to sustainably be in your feminine, where you don't have to try to be feminine. You just are. Like, I don't have to do anything.
It's an energy.
Like, I don't have to do any like practices. I don't do anything. You know what I mean? Like,
she's just there.
Seriously, like, I woke up this morning and it's like, okay, I did some Pilates, I had my tea, but I'm not like doing some like dance ritual and breast massage for 20 minutes. Like, if I get time, then that's great, but that I don't need that to be in my feminine. That's the key thing. There's nothing that I have to do to switch my energy. My homeostasis and equilibrium, and same for my clients, is feminine energy. So if I've had a rushing around day or whatever it is, and I do feel like I'm exhausted, I'm not then getting addicted to the masculine energy, which was definitely something that I would trip into in the past, where I would get addicted to the rush and the adrenaline and the hustle and the chaos. And so then I would just stay on that hamster wheel. I'm like disgusted by it now. Like, my body does not want it. And so I want to come back to my feminine. That's a beautiful place to be in.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot to be said there, because a lot of women think, to your point, that there's like all these rituals and things that have to happen. The best way that I like to describe it is it's just a knowing, is the word that I use, is that it's a knowing. I cannot tell you how many times, especially in this pregnancy, women have just been like stopping me and saying, you are literally glowing, before I was even showing, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, it's the baby.
No, receive it.
Right. A feminine energy. And it's because it's just this knowing. You just know. And when you feel like you're in your feminine, it's like, this is easy. It flows. I've given this analogy before, and I'm sure you've heard it, but of the riverbed. And I ask so many people, is a river masculine or is a river feminine? Just leave the question right there. And they go, I don't know, it's feminine because it flows. I'm like, okay, great. right, correct. But also without the structure of the riverbed, the masculine energy, it would just be chaos because that water would just turn into a puddle. It needs the stability and the direction to help it flow in her strength and in her radiance and dodging the rocks and moving with like eloquence. And so that's how I like to try to explain to a woman. It's like, if it's feeling hard, if it's feeling like you're forcing if it's feeling like there's a lot of resistance there, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business idea, I can get to a really recent massive example in a moment.
Yeah.
Then it's probably not the right path for you. And that doesn't mean choose masculine or choose feminine. It means alignment versus unalignment versus like a knowing or something that it feels like you're forcing.
Yeah.
And that's the best way that I like to describe it is now when people will say this to me, you feel so different. You feel lighter. You feel like you've changed. I get presence from you. I get this connection from you. And I say, yeah, because my little girl came out, like she's here, right? And she's being honored and she's being allowed to be expressed.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to the last piece that you were talking about was the relationship.
I want to hear that example too.
We'll come back.
Okay.
We'll put a little pin in her. We'll come back.
Yeah.
Because I think this is important for women to hear from us. I'm a more recent example. Anyone knows my story. I've shared a lot on here and a lot of my clients with dating and they know a lot of those pieces. And so I would love your take on this. And hands down for me, my partner now is my biggest trigger ever. It is the hardest relationship, hands down, I've ever had in my entire life. It is not every day that's like, oh my God, this is magical and I live in these rainbows and butterflies and he's so good to me. And it's like, no, this is really hard. And we work hard every single day because I love him. We've got the connection and it's all there. But the core foundation of what makes it so successful is our willingness to communicate with each other. And so the very first thing for us is a validation because you made the point of this is a masculine and a feminine, or this is a man versus woman thing. You're going to have a lot of those and we're going to have a lot of disagreements and we're going to have a lot of misunderstandings and you want it this way and I want it this way. But can I say, I can understand how that maybe felt. I can understand how me doing this, saying this, acting this way, doing this thing, I can understand. That doesn't mean I agree. That doesn't mean that I have to say, oh my gosh, okay, let's do that. But it means I can understand.
Yeah.
And so validation in our relationship has been, oh my gosh.
And like being seen.
My armor comes down instantly when he looks at me and he grabs my hands and he goes, baby, that must have really hurt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I did that. I'm sorry that I said that. I'm sorry that I made you feel that way.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware. Thank you for telling me how that made you feel. And it's like, oh.
And then like the fight dissipates, right?
Literally.
And then it's like, oh, okay, right. But for a lot of people, they are addicted to the fighting. To their nervous system, the fighting is what's normal, what's familiar. And so hence people will go, oh, he's so vanilla, like this relationship's so boring, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, is it boring or is there no drama and chaos and you're so used to the drama and the chaos? Like there is something so beautiful about in a relationship getting to this place of just like almost contentment, but in like not a bad way, in a good way, where you are just so like nourished by life. And you don't need this like constant chasing and next to feel just like deeply happy.
That's a beautiful word to describe how I feel right now in my life. Nourished.
Yeah.
Relationships, body, baby, business.
Just everything.
Yeah.
Something that you said before about the river, right? With like the masculine structure. I know that you talk about like systems. I mean, sales too, but like systems, right? And this isn't just in business, but this is also for all women. You know, number one is that the masculine has to be present in order for the feminine to feel safe.
Thank you.
So if you do not feel safe around the masculine, you aren't going to feel safe around the feminine. So when I'm working with people, the first step actually is not let's heal your feminine energy or let's work on all the mother stuff. It's all the man things. Because without that, you do not feel safe. Without that healing, you don't feel safe to be in your feminine. And also, of course, you know, in society, and we don't need to necessarily go down this rabbit hole, but society has just really positioned men as the bad, like all men are bad, all men are dangerous, all men are this, all men are that. And it's really damaging for the feminine because without the protection of men, we do not feel safe. And so I'm going to pin that because I want to come back to that. But on the structure, the piece and like the masculine structure, you know, if you're a single woman, for example, and you need to bring that masculine in yourself because you don't have a man with you, there are so many ways that you can provide your own sense of masculine structure and systems and flow, even in day-to-day life. Like simple example, plan your dinners.
Mm-hmm.
What are you having for dinner every week? So you don't open the fridge at 6 o'clock and go, oh, I don't know what to cook, because the majority of women, what they're actually exhausted by is not the doing, it's the decision-making.
Mm-hmm.
It's the decision-making.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can have more masculine structure in your life, it actually allows your feminine to thrive more. The chaos does not actually allow us to feel more feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Classic example, you're on a girls' trip with all girls and everyone goes, I don't mind for like, where do you want to go to dinner?
Right. I don't know,
Your
you pick.
blood
You
is
pick.
fucking boiling.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody freaking pick.
Yeah. Because you just want a decision to be made so that you can relax and go and enjoy.
Yes.
And that chaos and that nobody making a decision and there being no plans, there being no direction, it actually makes your feminine nervous system feel really frantic. And that's why then you'll often default into your masculine.
Mm-hmm.
So many women, they get burnt out from being in their masculine. What do? They swing the pendulum all the way to the other side. They go too into their feminine. And now they're like stressed out, chaotic, overwhelmed. Nothing's getting done. Their life is a mess. And then they think the only solution is go all the way back to my masculine. No, we have to bring the pendulum into the middle. But going on to what I was saying about like needing men, I'm sure you've even experienced this of like being pregnant, especially. I am so surprised by this, especially because I'm like so visibly showing of men in public not helping. And women wonder why they feel unsafe in public and why is this conversation continuously coming out, and it's all through Instagram of just like, you got to be careful of these men and, like just this fear mongering, right? And of course there is a space for that. And that is like, a reality for some people, but it's also this understanding of, part of the reason why chivalry exists and why it was actually created, and I talk about this in the book too, was for men to show to a woman, I respect you and I will protect you. And chivalry isn't even just so that, it's nice when we get our door held open. It's so that when we're traveling without our man, my husband knows another man will look out for me,
right?
But they don't.
Right. Right.
And so we walk down the street, we're getting catcalled, we're feeling unsafe. Part of the reason why we also feel unsafe is because we don't know whether another man that is walking around is going to help us.
Right.
And it's like, is that his fault though? Because so many women chop his balls off when he does come to help them. Even just like when a man goes to offer help to a woman of like putting her bag in the overhead locker. I'm fine, I can do it myself. So how dare you think that I'm weak and like too weak and blah, blah, blah. But then another woman is like, and this is me, like sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, is no one going to help me? But I have to be like, no, of course they're not going to help me, because a man, we've trained men now to be oblivious.
Mm-hmm. It's literally what I was going to say as you were saying that is it's because they don't feel safe to do it. They don't feel safe to approach you. They're scared they're going to get yelled at. They're scared that you're just going to think that they're hitting on you. And so they don't even feel safe in approaching you because of the culture that women have created.
And this is like true. This isn't just us saying this. I did a survey for a number of years that's in the book that just gives men the opportunity to answer questions about what it's like to be a man.
Right.
And the amount of heartbreaking answers, things like, for example, I don't feel safe to ask the woman in the office like where she got her blouse so I can buy it for my wife because it's really pretty, because I'm worried that she's going to think that it's like sexual harassment.
Right.
And I'm like,
that's sad. Yeah.
Like that's really, really sad, but it's true.
Right.
Yesterday, even just flying here, I got on the plane before my husband did, and my bag was really heavy. And now that I'm like 7 months pregnant, it's like actually harder for me to lift my bag over my head.
Right.
And I had to ask a man, hey, could you put this up for me? And that's okay. Like I've come to terms with that because it also gives them permission to understand, okay, there are women that actually want help.
Right.
So like, let me be a little bit more aware. Of course, there's part of me that's like, what the fuck? But and I ask him that. And then Hal was on the plane with me and whatever. And when we get up to then get off the plane, Hal didn't even pull my bag down. He immediately, when he got up, he's like, let me get this woman's bag. And so that taught him like, oh, she actually wants that help. And it's safe.
Yeah.
It's safe to help this woman. And, it was actually a beautiful experience, not just for me, but also it's like my husband, like that's what he wants to see. He wants to know that he can leave me to be traveling and another man is going to help me.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of, I think, awareness and education that needs to happen and more conversations like this in order for them to feel safe in that.
And it's our job.
Right. And it's also like, here's another point to this. So like the woman that's listening to this who maybe doesn't fully agree with us right now, or who maybe is on the other end of the spectrum, my partner, he is the first one when we're out somewhere and a woman clearly needs help. Before I can even say, babe, can you go help her? He's already helping her.
That's my husband too.
Because I have created a space where he doesn't feel like she's going to be mad if I go talk to her or go help her and whatever it is. And he does it in a way. And it's like, I wouldn't want that any other way.
No.
She's a woman that needs help.
And also, for anybody listening, if you think that a man holding open a door or getting your bag is derogatory or thinking that you're weak, that is what you think about yourself.
Right. Amen. Double click.
If you know in your body, I am independent. I can do anything. Like I can actually pick my own bag up if I wanted to, because I had to do it like multiple times this trip because no one helped. I actually can, but I don't want to.
Right.
And so if you know that you are strong, that you are independent, that you are worthy, that you are enough, you don't need to prove it to anybody.
Right.
You want to receive that help.
Here's like the small first little exercise we can give the listeners on this is just to practice receiving that.
Yeah.
And so if you are the woman who has a very difficult time saying yes to those types of things, and normally maybe like the first gut instinct is like, fuck, I really would actually like help right now. But I'm okay, I'm good, I got it, I can do it all by myself kind of energy. Practice being like, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah.
I would actually really enjoy that.
Or maybe your first gut reaction is I can do it myself, but that is the trauma response.
Right.
That is your body being like
receiving.
I don't feel safe, or I got to prove myself or whatnot. Yeah. And that proving energy it won't just show up in your relationship with men. It will show up in perfectionism. It will show up in your work life. It will show up in the way that you eat, the way that you exercise, how you think about yourself. It will show up in so many different areas. But like if we want our men to rise, like our lovers, but also the men in society, and we want to feel safer as women in society again, it's up to us.
Amen.
The solution is absolutely not, we just tell men, be more masculine, because if you can't receive them, and a lot of women in society cannot receive them, if you can't receive them, I'm sorry, but that's not a solution, because they don't feel safe to do that. Right. And then they try, and then their balls get chopped off and they're emasculated. Yeah. So the way that you get your man to rise, and that you have the space and you let him lead you, like keyword receive, surrender, and also support other men in a platonic way, being in the masculine, it's up to us. Yeah. We did this, so we need to be the ones to repair it. Yeah. And not I'm not trying to be in a mean way or anything, but it's just like, that's actually the solution. Like when I started writing this book, I kind of wrote it for men, and I really wanted to help men in society with all of this like emasculation and just feeling like it wasn't safe to be a man these days. And that, the statistics show that a man would rather not advance his career because of fear of him losing his job, because of a woman misperceiving something in the workplace. Right. And I was like, okay, the way to actually help men is through women. Right. We actually are the ones that have to do the work. Right. They have their work to do too. But in terms of the masculine, in terms of them feeling safe to be in their masculine, we actually need to be able to receive it.
Are you comfortable talking about the sex of our babies?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if that was an announcement you're ready to share
yet.
Thank
you for asking though. Yeah, we've shared.
Yeah. So we're both having boys.
Yes. So on brand.
So on brand for this conversation. The reason that I bring that up is because if you want to share what you were saying at the beginning as to why you think this is happening, I think you are so spot on. Okay, I've had these conversations with my spiritual coaches, with my friends, and internally and with God. Yeah. I know that that's why this is a boy inside of me, and I would love for you to explain.
Did you know it was a boy before
anything?
Yeah. So I connected with him with our spirit baby about a year before we conceived.
Oh, wow.
And he actually told me when we were going to conceive, and I have it written down. I have goosebumps. He was like, you will meet me in whatever the date was. And I have it written down in my journal. And then after we found out, I was like, wait, I wonder whether I wrote this date down. And I searched it because I do it's on my computer. And I searched it, and I'm like he has told me his due date, like his actual date, like when he'll actually come, like not the due date, according to the doctors kind of thing. So yeah, I knew we were having a boy before that. But so my theory is, because all my friends that are, most of my friends, I should say, that are pregnant right now, and women that I know that are pregnant, and now you included, Cassandra, we're having boys. And so my theory is I wonder if we have, the pendulum always swinging like too far to one side. And I feel like now as a society, we are finally starting to have this conversation around like, has feminism gone too far? Like, can we bring the village back? Like these sorts of conversations, and the whole like, loss of masculinity and toxic masculinity is actually toxic. Like that phrase in and of itself is actually toxic. So my theory is that there is going to be this like, oh my gosh, what's the word? Baby brain. This like
rise.
I can't think of the word, but like all these boys basically coming in, right? And so my theory is there's going to be all these baby boys coming in because we finally are going to be like, I am raising good men.
Conscious men.
Yeah, I am not raising soft boys or soy boys, whatever you want to call them. None of this kind of like, just, how we're seeing boys grow up now is somewhat alarming. It really is. They are so disconnected from what it means to be a man. They, I say that it's like the lazy boy syndrome is what I say of, for some women, you can't change the polarity in your relationship because your man has gotten it so good for so many years to not have to do anything, to not have to actually, embody what it means to be a man and be in his masculine. So he doesn't want to be because it seems like way too much work. And so I think that there's going to be all these men coming through that are going to be truly in their masculine and in their healthy masculine, and just like it's going to be sexy. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I truly can't wait.
Yeah.
And there's going to be all these men that are not soft men. They're not lazy. They're not misconstruing what it means to be in their masculine. They are truly like the providers and the protectors of society. They are the leaders. They are grounded. They are safe. And I can't wait.
Yeah. And that's why I say be very careful who you have babies with.
Yeah.
Because I am so excited and in full surrender mode to know that my baby boy will be raised by my partner.
Yeah.
From the masculine, true masculine energy. Because that's exactly how it should be. And
I love that you mentioned that. I've talked about this before on my podcast of like, when possible, the woman should be the one that's predominantly disciplining the daughters. And then the man, like the father, should be the one predominantly disciplining the son.
Yeah.
Because what happens, and this, obviously there's no perfect solution to this, but there are ways around it, is that a lot of mothers unknowingly emasculate their sons because they're disciplining them like you discipline a girl.
Right.
And if you shame a girl or tell her, like you're meant to be doing this, or why didn't you do this? That actually makes her, because we need community, it makes her then show up better and change her behavior. For a boy, it puts him in his turtle shell and that's emasculating to him. So it doesn't actually raise strong boys. So yeah, even for like, single mothers will be like, how do I do that if the father isn't in his life or whatever? I'm like, what other man is in your life that can be a father figure and a really healthy father figure for your son and help discipline him and teach him what it means to be a man, because it will help.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah. And even in the way that he talks to and treats you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all in actually, I'm a voice coach. So I do a lot of work on what the words that we say and how we communicate. But this is actually all of the nonverbals.
Yes.
It's the subtle way that he touches your back. It's the looks that he gives you. It's the kiss before bed. It's all of the very little things that he will see. And they don't necessarily grow up repeating what you tell them. They're going to repeat what you've been showing them and what they've been exposed to. Yeah. And so I feel so ready and I feel so excited. 4 weeks, I found out when I was 4 weeks, and I was literally, I said he. If that gender reveal came out a girl, I would have been shocked.
Oh no, my husband was like, babe, what if this comes out a girl? I'll be like, well, then it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like I was like, just without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like it is a boy, like without a doubt. There was not a shadow of my mind.
I had a psychic tell me that it was a girl, and I told her she was wrong.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I was like, thank you so much, but no.
Yeah, no, like you are incorrect.
I know that this is a boy.
Trust your intuition. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow.
So you're on tour right now for your book.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the book.
Yeah.
I will share that story. But I would love to chat a little bit about your book and what you're doing right now, what you're up to, and how everyone can get a hold of you.
Yeah, thank you. We're doing like a little mini version. Obviously, this pregnancy was planned, but the book launch, I mean, of course I have it at the same time, birthing a book, birthing a baby, like and I'm like so in my feminine.
But I know what I love. I love that. I've had a lot of women, we'll talk about this after, but I've had a lot of women say how surprised they are that I'm still going and I have 4 more keynotes coming before baby comes.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you insane? And so I love that you're in the middle of this and you're just like that true definition of I'm doing it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm doing it, but also with like so much support.
Yeah.
Like the only reason why I can do this is because my husband, he works with me. My husband is doing literally everything, even just like whilst we're on this, he's like going to get the food that I want that I've like written out for him and like making sure everything's ready. He spent like an hour yesterday, like setting up all the podcasts. There was like a doona, which is the Australian word for like a comforter, like on the floor in our suite because he was like trying to like soundproof the place for like a podcast that I had yesterday. My team has just been doing everything. And so and I share that because it's like, I don't want women thinking that I'm just like running around doing it this way. It's like, no, I had a nap yesterday. Like I'm taking it easy. Like I've got Hal bought me those like big compression, those like air like boot thingies. And just I am doing it because I am so supported.
Right.
It definitely wasn't like planned. I wanted to be able to do a bigger one and wear the power suits and whatnot because that's what I like just feel comfortable in. That's what I usually wear. But it's also been like an initiation into I can still be powerful and doing all of this and it look incredibly different to how I ever imagined it and to also how I've ever even like spoken and done events. Like I've never kind of done it this way, even just like from the clothing that I've worn. But yeah, so Becoming Her is the book title. I spent 6 years writing it, so it's been a long time. And it's really a permission slip which has been like the consensus of this kind of conversation. It's a permission slip for women to be the woman that they want to be in the given season of life, to create their own box. You don't need to be in the housewife box. You don't need to be in the girl boss box. You don't need to be in any box, but create your own frame for this season of life and just permission to actually not need to operate like a man, to compete against men, to do things the way that men do them. And you can still be wildly successful in whatever area of life, whether that's family, whether it's work, whether it's all of it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What an inspirational story.
Thank you.
When did you launch the book?
It comes out April 8th, so next Tuesday.
Okay.
So we're in the pre-sale right now,
So
like at the time of this recording.
Yay.
So yes, very exciting.
Amazing.
So ready.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll drop all the details in the show notes. So anyone that would like to get their hands on a copy, we'll make sure that they do. And that's incredible. Anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
I feel like we've touched on truly so much today. I would say the last thing that I would love to just drop is for the women listening, because I know there's going to be lots of them that are the breadwinners. That doesn't immediately make you the masculine. More entrepreneurs I need to talk about being the female breadwinner, but the way that it's getting talked about, at least how I've seen, is actually very emasculating. And it's not the way that I talk about it. I like to say that you can be the feminine female breadwinner. And so it's really like realizing that money isn't actually inherently masculine. It doesn't make you masculine or make you the provider or the protector to be the one earning more money. It's how you engage with money. It's how you engage with money in the relationship. I don't know whether you're the breadwinner, but I'm the breadwinner. And it has, like, I have never felt, and I absolutely do not feel like right now, that it is my job to keep the roof over our head, even though my money pays the mortgage, like my business pays my husband, and all of that, because you don't need, like, there is another way of doing it. So I'll leave that there. There's a chapter about that in the book as well, but I think that's a really important conversation to start to just be thinking about, and in a different way, and realizing you can be in your feminine and make more money than your partner.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's super powerful in a conversation that needs to be had a lot more often.
Yeah.
You know who Amy Porterfield is?
Yes.
Yeah. So she did kind of the same thing. And I actually think her partner's name is Hal or Hugh or something.
No, but I think it might start with H. It's not Hal, because I'd never even heard that name until I met her husband.
It's very something similar.
Yes.
But anyways, I remember her talking about that, and I was like, that's so beautiful. And I actually see that happening a lot more often. Yeah. And I think it's very beautiful. So I'm excited to check out the book.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So what's the story?
So Cole's Notes version, because it's kind of a long story. So all these businesses, got them to the level, and I have a very, very, very close relationship with God now, so I can live in my life, what I like to say, God's plan, not mine. And long story short, this beautiful opportunity came into my life recently, just before Christmas. That was the most elaborate salary that most people would dive after, and took me for a second to really take a second to think about it and consider it. And then, long story short, the business was going to be sold in a certain number of years. And it was like an absolutely life-changing amount of money that I had the opportunity to be a part of. And there was all of the reasons and all of the signs to do it, but there was a deep internal knowing not to. And so from the very beginning, I ignored the voice. And this was in October, November.
Okay.
I ignored the voice, had a lot of conversations with my partner about it, and he's very supportive. And it was just, he's like, well, try this, that, you never know, whatever. And so here I am, kind of going along for this ride, putting my business a little bit on the back burner, building somebody else's. And it was sign after sign after sign after sign after sign that I think most women would not be aware of. And I'm so grateful that I have such a great relationship with myself and with God, that eventually it was like, enough's enough. And so to be able to have that standard and that boundary for myself, where I was like, I'm able to turn down this life-changing amount of money, which first of all, I don't need, but of course that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm able to say no. And long story short, I walked away from the opportunity. But the reason that I say that is, the hardest part of that was telling my dad, was because he saw it as safety and security. I'm an entrepreneur, and so that's very unstable. And he saw that as safety and security, and the paycheck it was insane.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to tell him, and I was crying, and I'm sharing this whole story in my heart and how I know that I'm destined for this, and I'm part of this movement, and I can't do it. And he said, do you believe in yourself? And I said, without a shadow of a doubt. And he goes, then I believe in you. And it was the first time that I've ever had that level of support and conversation with my dad. And I've been able to show him over the years that truly whatever you put your mind to, you're capable of. And so it was just kind of that story of the masculine structure, the safety, the support. I'm about to have a baby. It would set us up for life. All of these great things. Think that anyone who's listening, it's like your highest salary probably times 10.
Right.
So it was a lot, and just a massive life-changing, once in a lifetime opportunity. But it was a deep knowing, for whatever reason, that is not my purpose. My purpose is what I'm doing and what I know to be doing.
I'm so glad you trusted that.
And I had to listen to it. She was screaming at me. She was screaming. I was getting sick. Just all of these. And I had just found out that I was pregnant when it kind of started.
You would have been pregnant, yeah.
Yeah, when it just started kicking off, I just found out I was pregnant. And it was this beautiful conversation of what kind of mother do I want to be? What kind of pregnancy do I want?
Yeah.
What kind of delivery do I want? What kind of mother do I want to be the first month that this child is born, or the first 6 months? What does that look like? And so sitting down and having a conversation, which is why it's so important to be able to communicate so openly with your partner.
Yeah.
He was like, what do you want that to look like the first 6 months that the baby is born? How do you want to show up? And when I really tuned in, I was like, I want to be a present mom.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do these things. And
it's just realizing that value and abundance isn't just found in cash.
Yeah.
Right? There is so much abundance and value found in, I want to be this kind of mom in the first 6 months of my baby's life. And that, the fact that you obviously can make that choice is amazing, but also that is money right there.
It's the freedom.
Yeah.
It's the freedom. And I also want to acknowledge the woman who hears that and maybe isn't in a place where they can do that. I've worked really hard for the things that I haven't to be in the place that I'm at. But also over the last 3 years of my life, choosing to leave Canada and come to the States, it was for the freedom that I have built and that I have. And so it was 12 o'clock and I want to take my dogs for a walk by the river. I can do that. I don't need to ask anybody. I can do what I want to do. And I've built that life for myself. And that is way more valuable to me than any price tag you could ever dangle in my face. The freedom that I have built, that is what I became an entrepreneur for.
Yeah.
And so it was just that, she was literally screaming at me from the inside. She's like, hello?
Yeah.
Are you going to listen to me? And I'm like, dang, baby girl. Okay, I see you.
Wow. What a beautiful reminder of people, really trust your intuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
If you need help and support in learning how to do that, this is what Monica does.
Yeah.
What is the best way to get a hold of you?
Website has everything.
Great.
So monicayateshealth.com. It's got my podcast, my Instagram, the book links, freebies, all the things.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Last thing that we'll finish before we wrap up the episode is, what are you most excited for next? Aside from being a mom.
I was going to say literally being a mom. I'm actually really excited for the unknown. I do love a challenge, and I have run my business for a long time, and it's been It's been beautiful. But also I'm like, give me a challenge. And I love to explore, just like, I find that I can get very creative with challenges and not just kind of like, there's something beautiful about just, kind of like redundancy and repetitiveness, especially in business sometimes. But I'm actually just so excited for the unknown of this new chapter and the woman that I'm going to become and how it's going to evolve my business and our relationship. And I will say I'm actually really, really excited to show women that you can create your own version of motherhood. Especially in the US. A lot of women have been asking me this of like, aren't you afraid of blah, blah, blah? Or like, how are you going to manage it all? And I'm like, you're looking at your girlfriends.
We need a part 2 of this episode.
Yeah. I'm like,
badly.
You're looking at your girlfriend. We do. I haven't talked about this on a podcast before or on mine, but I'm like, you look at your girlfriends and you see the way that they are raising the children and putting themselves second, and you see what's happening in their life and you think that's normal and that's what has to happen to you.
It does not have to be your story.
No. And I am so fed up of how social media is making young people think that raising children is like the most horrible thing in the world and that they will lose themselves and lose their life. And like, yeah, it's good to see like the not so pretty side sometimes on social media, but there is a detrimental side to that. And I know it because so many of my clients are like, I don't know whether I want to have kids. When I dig into it, it's all fear-based. And it's these fears that are being put into their brain from what they are seeing on social media. I don't know whether you saw like the viral clip of the Call Her Daddy, whoever had like the red hair. I don't know. I think she's like a singer or something. You'll probably see it in the next week. But there was like a guest on, and I don't know her name, but she's really famous. I'm terrible at pop culture. And she said, she goes, I don't know, I could be butchering this quote a little bit, but she goes, I don't know one friend that's a mother that is glowing and has slept well and that is happy and blah, blah, blah. And so there's these people doing these reels of like her saying that, and then them just like, motherhood is the best, like with their babies and all that kind of stuff. And basically she's shitting on like motherhood, partnership, all that stuff. And obviously it's a full reflection of her. But that's just one example of, I'm like, I am worried about how that's going to affect young people and their perception of parenthood and motherhood.
Well, I know confidently, and I can say this now after talking to you for an hour, I am very confident in being a leader in that movement. And I'm very excited for us to be able to teach women. And I'm not a mother, but there's no shadow of a doubt.
No.
There's no shadow of a freaking doubt in my mind. And I wish that more women had this confidence going into pregnancy because they wouldn't be so scared.
Right.
Yeah.
And this like not needing for everything to be perfect.
Right.
And yourself to be perfect.
Right. Yeah. Or the way that we're also shown on television and told how delivery and labor
don't even get me started on that one. We do
need a part 2.
That one for a motherhood, birth, all the things conversation.
We do need a part 2. Yeah. Amen. Well, thank you so much for being here. The last and final thing before we wrap up is thank you for being here. You took your time to come. So how can we give back to you? How can our community give back to you?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I would honestly say buy the book. And if you can leave a review on Amazon, that right now would be the most incredible thing.
Amazing. So they can get it on Amazon.
They can get it on Amazon, April 8th. And leave a review. And that would just mean the world.
Amazing.
I really appreciate it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Savages, that is all that we have for you for today's episode. Monica, thank you so much for being here. Please check her out. All of her details will be in the show notes. Give her book a check out and a listen and a good read. I'm excited to dive into it. As always, a savage can get knocked down, but they will always get back up. Keep on fighting. Peace, guys.